Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us in this important training session. Today, we are going to address an issue that affects each and every one of us, the impact of environmental problems on human health. Across the globe, our planet is facing a series of environmental crises that are intensifying at an alarming rate. Air pollution, climate change, water contamination, deforestation, biodiversity loss, and the unsustainable use of natural resources, these are no longer distant problems affecting only remote corners of the world. They are present in our cities, our neighborhoods, and even inside our homes. What's more concerning is that these environmental issues are not just harming nature, they are making people sick. They are contributing to respiratory illnesses, heart disease, developmental issues in children, mental health challenges, and the spread of infectious diseases. Vulnerable groups, such as children, the elderly, and low-income communities, are being disproportionately affected. This is not just an environmental issue. It's a human health crisis. That's why it's more important than ever that we understand the connection between environmental degradation and health. We need to raise awareness, encourage action, and most importantly, educate the next generation. This presentation is part of our educational project called No Other World, a powerful reminder that we only have one Earth, and we must do everything we can to protect it. Not tomorrow, not in the future, but starting today. Over the next few slides, we'll take a closer look at the major environmental problems threatening human well-being, real-world examples of their impact, and what we can do, as individuals, educators, and communities, to drive change. We'll also explore interactive activities and tools you can use in your classrooms to help students become informed and engaged citizens. Together, through awareness and education, we can contribute to a healthier planet, and a healthier future for all. Let's begin this journey. As we move into the core theme of this course, it's crucial to understand that environmental problems are not abstract, distant, or solely ecological. They are deeply personal and immediate. They affect our health, our families, and our communities. This course is designed to explore the critical link between environmental degradation and human health. It's not just about melting glaciers and endangered species, it's about the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we consume, and the safety of the environments where we live and work. Every day, millions of people are exposed to polluted air, toxic chemicals, contaminated water, and extreme weather conditions, all of which can cause or exacerbate a range of health problems, from respiratory diseases and heart conditions to mental health disorders and infectious outbreaks. In many cases, these problems are silent and slow, but their effects are long-lasting and sometimes irreversible. But we're not here just to inform. We're here to empower. This course is specially crafted for educators like you, people who have the unique power to shape awareness, values, and actions among students and communities. We'll equip you with knowledge about various types of environmental issues, their direct and indirect impacts on human health, and practical tools and resources to bring this topic into your classrooms. You'll learn how to foster critical thinking, guide meaningful discussions, and encourage your students to become problem solvers and change makers. And most importantly, we'll show how education can be one of the most powerful responses to this global health challenge. In the next slide, we'll walk you through the structure of this course, what you can expect in terms of format and content, and the learning outcomes we aim to achieve together. Now that we've introduced the theme and purpose of this course, let's take a moment to explore how the course is structured and what we aim to accomplish together. This training has been intentionally designed to be engaging, interactive, and relevant. You won't just be passively receiving information. We've built in interactive presentations, real-world case examples, and hands-on activities that will help you explore the content in depth and apply it meaningfully in your own teaching environments. Our first major goal is to boost awareness. Environmental issues are often overwhelming, complex, or even invisible in our daily lives. Through this course, we want to help you recognize the subtle and not-so-subtle ways these challenges affect our health, and empower you to help your students make these connections too. Secondly, this course emphasizes critical thinking. We will dive into controversial questions, challenge assumptions, and explore the deeper systems behind pollution, climate change, and biodiversity loss. You'll learn how to inspire curiosity and dialogue in your classrooms, not just deliver facts. And third, we'll equip you with practical tools. These are not just theories or high-level concepts. You'll walk away with concrete ideas, lesson plans, activities, and teaching strategies that you can immediately use with your students, regardless of their age or background. By the end of this course, you'll have a solid foundation to identify and explain key environmental problems and their health impacts. Facilitate classroom discussions around sustainability and health. Inspire students to care, act, and lead change in their communities. This course isn't just about knowing more, it's about doing more, and teaching others to do the same. Up next, we'll dive into the heart of the issue. The major environmental challenges that are shaping the health of our planet and our people. Let's explore them one by one. Let's now take a closer look at the core environmental challenges that are driving today's health crises. These challenges are deeply interconnected, and together they form a complex web of risks, not only to ecosystems and economies, but to human life itself. Let's begin with air pollution. This is one of the most widespread environmental threats. From vehicle emissions and industrial fumes to indoor pollutants like cigarette smoke or burning solid fuels, the air we breathe is often filled with harmful substances. These contaminants contribute to serious health problems, especially respiratory and cardiovascular diseases, and have been linked to millions of premature deaths globally each year. Next, we have water pollution. Access to clean, safe drinking water is a basic human right, yet millions around the world lack it. Contaminants from industrial waste, agricultural runoff, plastic pollution, and poor sanitation systems find their way into rivers, lakes, and even underground water reserves. This results in a range of health threats, from diarrheal diseases and parasitic infections to heavy metal poisoning. Climate change is another critical concern. As global temperatures rise, we see more extreme weather events, floods, droughts, and heat waves. These don't just destroy infrastructure, they also harm mental health, spread vector-borne diseases like malaria and dengue, and increase malnutrition due to reduced crop yields. Then there's biodiversity loss. Every species plays a role in maintaining the balance of our ecosystems. When species disappear, whether from habitat destruction, pollution, or climate change, entire food chains are disrupted. This can lead to the collapse of natural systems that support clean air, fresh water, and fertile soil. It also limits medical discoveries, as many modern medicines originate from natural sources. Finally, resource depletion. As our global population grows and consumption increases, we are using up vital resources, like fresh water, forests, fisheries, and fertile soil, faster than the earth can replenish them. This overexploitation threatens food security, increases poverty, and puts future generations at risk. Each of these challenges represents a significant health risk on its own, but together, they compound each other and escalate the damage. Understanding them is the first step in addressing them, and teaching about them is one of the most powerful actions we can take. In the next slide, we'll dive deeper into the first challenge on this list, air pollution, its sources, its health impacts, and what we can do about it. Let's now focus on air pollution, one of the most immediate and visible threats to human health. Air pollution occurs when harmful substances like gases, chemicals, and particles are released into the atmosphere. These pollutants don't just disappear, they linger, and we breathe them in every day. The main sources of air pollution include vehicles, cars, buses, trucks, and motorcycles emit nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and fine particles, especially in congested urban areas. Industrial processes, factories and power plants release sulfur dioxide, volatile organic compounds, and particulate matter into the air. Burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas combustion for electricity, heating, or cooking contributes heavily to smog and greenhouse gas accumulation. Agricultural activities, pesticides, fertilizers, and methane emissions from livestock also contribute to atmospheric pollution. Household pollutants. In many parts of the world, people rely on solid fuels, like wood or charcoal, for cooking, often indoors. This can lead to dangerously high exposure levels. So how does this pollution affect our health? The health impacts of air pollution are wide-ranging and serious. Short-term exposure can cause irritation of the eyes, nose, and throat. But long-term exposure is far more dangerous. It contributes to the development of asthma and other chronic respiratory conditions, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, heart disease, including increased risk of heart attacks and strokes, lung cancer, even cognitive decline and developmental issues in children. Air pollution is particularly dangerous for vulnerable groups, like young children, the elderly, and people with pre-existing health conditions. In fact, the World Health Organization has linked air pollution to over 7 million premature deaths every year, making it one of the world's leading environmental killers. But numbers alone don't always make an impact. One of the most powerful ways to build awareness is by connecting these global issues to personal, everyday experiences. In the next slide, we'll introduce an activity called the Air Pollution Diary. This will help both you and your students observe and reflect on air pollution in your own communities, and begin thinking critically about what can be done. Let's take a look. Students are asked to keep a daily diary for 1 week. Each day, they observe and write down the following. What sources of pollution they noticed, for example, idling cars, construction dust, smoke from burning trash, fumes from cooking stoves, etc. Where they noticed it, was it on the way to school, outside their window, near markets or roads? How it made them feel, did they experience any discomfort, smell anything unusual, or feel concern? Any potential alternatives or solutions, for instance, could people use bikes instead of motorbikes? Could there be more green areas in that space? Encourage students to be honest, curious, and detailed. They can use notebooks, printed templates, or even voice memos or photos if available. This activity is great for encouraging critical thinking and observation skills, helping students connect science to everyday life, fostering early environmental advocacy through reflection. After the week, students can present their observations and suggestions in small groups or classroom discussions. This step helps build communication skills and community awareness. Now that we've looked at air pollution, let's turn to another major concern, water pollution. This issue is just as urgent, particularly in communities that lack access to clean water and sanitation. We'll explore what causes it and how it harms human health in the next section. Now, let's take a closer look at one of the most urgent and widespread environmental issues facing humanity today, water pollution. While the Earth is rich in water, only a small fraction, about 1%, is accessible and safe for human use. Unfortunately, even this limited resource is under serious threat due to pollution caused by human activity. Water pollution occurs when harmful substances, often chemicals or microorganisms, contaminate freshwater sources like rivers, lakes, and groundwater, rendering them unsafe for drinking, cooking, cleaning, and farming. Let's explore some of the major causes and their health impacts. Sewage. In many parts of the world, especially in low-income areas, untreated or inadequately treated sewage is directly discharged into rivers and lakes. This introduces a vast number of pathogens, bacteria, viruses, and parasites, into the water system. Health impact. Exposure to this contaminated water leads to diseases such as diarrhea, cholera, and dysentery. Children are particularly vulnerable and can become severely ill from waterborne infections that are entirely preventable. Industrial waste. Factories often release hazardous chemicals, like heavy metals, solvents, and toxins, into nearby water bodies. Even when regulations exist, enforcement is frequently weak or ignored. Health impact. Toxic substances can accumulate in fish and aquatic life, entering the human food chain. Long-term exposure can lead to neurological disorders, organ damage, and even cancer. Agricultural runoff. fertilizers and pesticides used in farming can seep into groundwater or be washed into nearby rivers during rainfall. These substances contain nitrates, phosphates, and chemicals that disrupt both ecosystems and human health. Health impact: high nitrate levels in drinking water can cause a condition called blue baby syndrome in infants, and long-term exposure has been linked to various cancers and reproductive issues. Moreover, the spread of antibiotic-resistant bacteria from animal waste in water is an emerging concern. What's particularly alarming is that contaminated water doesn't just stay in one place. Polluted rivers flow into larger bodies, and groundwater pollution can affect entire communities for generations. Vulnerable populations, especially children, pregnant women, and those in rural or marginalized areas, are at much greater risk. Water-related illnesses contribute significantly to the global disease burden, especially in places where healthcare infrastructure is weak. But this isn't just a global issue, it's local. Even communities that seem far from rivers or farms may be impacted through what they drink, eat, and use every day. To make this concept more tangible for students, we'll now introduce a hands-on experiment to explore the issue of water pollution directly. This hands-on activity helps students understand the difference between clean and polluted water by examining real samples from various sources like tap water, rain, and rivers. Students will collect water samples, then observe and record details such as water color, clarity, and smell. If test kits are available, they will also measure pH levels and pollutant content like nitrates or chlorine. After gathering data, students compare their findings and reflect on which samples are safest and why. This activity encourages critical thinking and raises awareness about water quality issues in their communities. It can also lead to discussions about solutions like filtration and environmental policies. Next, we'll explore the impacts of climate change on human health. Climate change is one of the most pressing global challenges of our time, and its impacts on human health are profound and far-reaching. Rising temperatures have led to a significant increase in the frequency and severity of heat waves. Currently, over 100 million more people each year are exposed to extreme heat than just a few decades ago. This exposure can cause serious health problems such as heat exhaustion, heat stroke, dehydration, and worsened cardiovascular and respiratory diseases, particularly affecting the elderly, children, and people with pre-existing conditions. In addition to heat stress, climate change intensifies extreme weather events like floods. Each year, over 500,000 people are displaced due to flooding, which not only destroys homes and infrastructure but also disrupts access to clean water, sanitation, and healthcare services. Floods can lead to injuries, waterborne diseases, and mental health issues related to displacement and loss. Another critical concern is the increased spread of infectious diseases. Changes in temperature and precipitation affect the habitats and behaviors of disease-carrying vectors such as mosquitoes and ticks. Experts project a 30% rise in vector-borne diseases like malaria, dengue fever, and Lyme disease as these vectors expand into new regions. This trend poses a major public health challenge, especially in regions with limited healthcare resources. Furthermore, climate change exacerbates food insecurity and malnutrition by disrupting agricultural production, leading to poorer health outcomes, especially for children. Air pollution, worsened by rising temperatures, contributes to respiratory diseases, further burdening health systems. Overall, the impacts of climate change on human health are complex and interconnected, disproportionately affecting vulnerable populations such as low-income communities, indigenous peoples, and those living in disaster-prone areas. This reality underscores the urgent need for climate action, adaptation strategies, and public health interventions to protect communities and reduce health risks. In the next slide, we'll engage in a climate change debate activity that encourages critical thinking about these issues and helps students explore different viewpoints on climate policies and actions. This activity is designed to engage students in critical thinking about the complex causes and potential solutions to climate change. Through a structured debate format, students will explore different perspectives, deepen their understanding, and develop communication skills. The objective is to encourage learners to critically analyze the factors driving climate change, from human activities like fossil fuel use and deforestation to natural influences, and to consider a variety of responses, including technological innovations, policy changes, and individual actions. In practice, the class will be divided into 2 or more groups, each assigned a position to defend. One group might argue the urgency of immediate and strong climate action, while another could explore the challenges and trade-offs involved in implementing certain policies. Encourage respectful discussion, evidence-based arguments, and active listening. This debate fosters collaboration and helps students appreciate the complexity of climate change, preparing them to become informed advocates and educators on this critical issue. Next, we will move on to biodiversity loss, causes and health consequences. Biodiversity loss represents a silent but severe environmental crisis with deep consequences for human health and well-being. The variety of plants, animals, and microorganisms that make up ecosystems provide vital services that support life on Earth, including food, medicine, and clean air and water. One of the most urgent impacts is on global food security. Reduced crop diversity, caused by habitat destruction, monoculture farming, and loss of pollinators, threatens the resilience of our food systems. Without a diverse genetic pool, crops become more vulnerable to pests, diseases, and climate changes, putting billions at risk of food shortages and malnutrition. Medicinal resources are also at risk. Many modern medicines derive from compounds found in wild plants and animals. As species disappear due to deforestation, pollution, and overhunting, we lose potential cures and treatments for diseases, limiting future medical advances. Furthermore, the collapse of ecosystems disrupts essential services such as nutrient cycling, water purification, and climate regulation. This disruption can have cascading effects on human health, from increased exposure to pollutants to reduced resilience against natural disasters. The primary drivers behind biodiversity loss include widespread deforestation, pollution from industrial and agricultural sources, and overhunting or poaching. These human activities accelerate the extinction rates far beyond natural levels. Understanding the causes and consequences of biodiversity loss is critical for developing strategies that protect ecosystems and safeguard human health. Biodiversity loss is often called a silent threat because, unlike dramatic environmental disasters, it unfolds gradually yet has profound consequences for ecosystems and human health. This loss is largely caused by human activities. Deforestation removes the forests that serve as homes to countless species, disrupting entire ecosystems. Pollution, from industrial waste, pesticides, and fertilizers, contaminates air, soil, and water, making environments uninhabitable for many forms of life. Overhunting and overfishing further reduce animal populations, breaking food chains and upsetting the natural balance needed to maintain healthy ecosystems. These disruptions directly affect human health in multiple ways. When species disappear, crop diversity suffers, making our food supply less resilient to pests, diseases, and climate shifts. This contributes to food insecurity and malnutrition worldwide. The oceans also suffer, as overfishing reduces fish stocks, an essential protein source for billions. Additionally, many medicinal plants and animals contain compounds critical for treating diseases. As biodiversity declines, so does our potential to discover new medicines, limiting advances in healthcare. Understanding this connection underscores why protecting biodiversity is not only about preserving nature but is vital to sustaining human health and well-being. To deepen understanding and foster a personal connection with biodiversity conservation, this activity invites participants to engage creatively and thoughtfully. The main objective is to raise awareness about endangered species and inspire empathy by highlighting their unique characteristics and vital roles within ecosystems. By focusing on individual species, students can appreciate the diversity of life and understand how each organism contributes to the health and balance of our planet. Participants will design visually compelling posters that showcase a selected endangered species. The poster should include key information such as the species' habitat, its role in the ecosystem, and the specific threats it faces, whether from deforestation, pollution, climate change, or human exploitation. This creative exercise encourages participants to research and synthesize information, honing both their scientific understanding and communication skills. The impact goes beyond art. It cultivates an awareness of how interconnected life forms are and highlights the urgent need for conservation efforts. Through this activity, students gain a stronger sense of responsibility and motivation to protect biodiversity, ultimately supporting the health of ecosystems and, by extension, human health. Resource depletion is one of the most pressing environmental challenges of our time. Our planet's natural resources are being consumed at an unsustainable rate, and this has direct and far-reaching consequences for human health and social stability. Let's start with overfishing. Many of the world's fish populations are in decline due to excessive and unregulated fishing. Fish are not just vital to marine ecosystems but also provide a key source of protein for billions of people, especially in coastal regions. When fish stocks collapse, it threatens food security and increases malnutrition among vulnerable communities who rely heavily on seafood. Next, soil degradation is another major concern. Intensive farming practices, combined with deforestation and the effects of climate change, are stripping away fertile topsoil, the very foundation of agriculture. Without healthy soil, crop yields decline, and farmers struggle to produce enough food. This can lead to malnutrition and force rural populations to migrate in search of better livelihoods, creating social and economic instability. Water scarcity is the third critical aspect. Growing populations, industrial pollution, and climate shifts are making fresh water less available. When water becomes scarce or contaminated, it directly affects sanitation and hygiene, increasing the risk of waterborne diseases. It also hampers agricultural productivity, further worsening food insecurity. The economic impacts are severe, especially in regions already struggling with poverty. Understanding these interconnected challenges is crucial. Resource depletion threatens not only the environment but also human health, livelihoods, and the future of generations to come. Understanding the impact we each have on the planet's resources is a crucial step toward fostering sustainable habits. This activity is designed to help participants become more aware of their own daily use of natural resources and reflect on how their actions contribute to resource depletion. The objective here is to encourage a deeper sense of mindfulness about water, food, and energy consumption, the core elements that greatly affect environmental health. Participants will track their consumption for 3 consecutive days. This means carefully documenting how much water they use, for drinking, cooking, bathing, and cleaning. They will also keep note of the food they consume, considering not only quantity but also the types of food and their environmental impact. Lastly, energy usage, such as electricity or gas for heating, cooling, and appliances, should be recorded. By collecting this data, participants will gain valuable insights into their personal ecological footprint. This hands-on self-assessment helps reveal where they might be using more resources than necessary and opens the door to meaningful conversations about reducing waste and adopting more sustainable lifestyles. Ultimately, this activity empowers individuals to make informed choices that contribute to the conservation of natural resources and the health of our planet. As we reach this point in our course, it's important to pause and reflect on the key insights we've gained about the vital connection between environmental challenges and human health. Throughout the session, we explored several major environmental problems, from the loss of biodiversity and depletion of natural resources to the accelerating impacts of climate change. Each of these issues poses serious risks not only to ecosystems but also directly to human well-being. We discussed how these environmental challenges contribute to a wide range of health problems, including malnutrition caused by dwindling food supplies, respiratory illnesses from polluted air, and heightened vulnerability to disease due to changing climates. Alongside this knowledge, we introduced practical educational activities designed to deepen understanding and inspire action. From creating species protection posters to tracking daily resource consumption, these hands-on exercises help learners engage with the material in meaningful ways. Finally, we covered teaching tools and strategies to effectively communicate these complex topics, ensuring that educators feel equipped to inspire awareness and positive change across diverse groups. This comprehensive review sets the stage for our next topic, understanding the frameworks of environmental governance, both global and local, that shape how we protect our planet and health. Tackling today's complex environmental challenges requires coordinated efforts at multiple levels, from global treaties to local laws. Environmental governance provides the framework through which nations and communities can work together to reduce harm and safeguard public health. One of the most significant global agreements is the Paris Agreement, signed by 195 countries in 2015. This landmark treaty commits nations to limit global warming by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, highlighting the urgent need for collective climate action. At the international health level, the World Health Organization has established over 100 guidelines that influence policies worldwide. These guidelines cover critical areas such as air quality standards and water safety, helping countries develop effective regulations to protect environmental health. Locally and nationally, more than 50 waste management laws regulate how communities reduce, recycle, and safely dispose of waste. These laws play a vital role in minimizing pollution and preventing health hazards linked to improper waste handling. In addition, over 1,000 cities worldwide utilize air quality indices to provide real-time information about pollution levels. These indices empower individuals to protect themselves during high pollution days and motivate policymakers to improve air quality. Together, these international agreements, guidelines, and local regulations form a comprehensive system to address environmental risks. Understanding this governance landscape is essential for effective environmental education and advocacy. Let's take a moment to review the key points we've covered in this course. First, we explored different environmental types, from lush forests to vast oceans, each forming an essential part of our planet's ecosystems. Understanding these environments is the foundation for effective preservation and conservation efforts. Next, we examined how environmental factors directly impact human health. Clean air and water are not just environmental issues, they are critical to our well-being. Pollution and resource depletion contribute to serious health problems, highlighting the deep connection between the environment and our health. Finally, we discussed a variety of educational activities and tools designed to engage learners. From field trips and citizen science projects to creative art-based assignments, these approaches empower educators to make environmental health concepts accessible and impactful. Together, these insights provide a solid foundation to inspire and educate the next generation on protecting both our planet and ourselves. As we wrap up, let's focus on how you can bring this knowledge into your classroom and inspire your students. First, explore a wealth of resources available online, from detailed lesson plans and activity guides to engaging videos and interactive simulations. These tools can enrich your teaching and keep lessons dynamic. Next, consider starting a classroom project to make learning hands-on and impactful. Whether it's launching a recycling initiative, planting a school garden, or organizing a local cleanup, these activities empower students to take real-world action. Finally, stay connected and engaged. Join educator networks to share your successes, collaborate with peers, and continue growing as an environmental educator. Together, we can nurture informed, passionate stewards of our planet. Thank you for your commitment to making a difference through education.